The year is 1919. The National Restaurant Association forms and has its first show in Kansas City. Now, among the topics addressed at that first meeting were labor challenges, spiking food costs, and government interference. In its early years, the show moved around, mostly within the Midwest and eastern part of the country, until it was permanently located in Chicago in 1950. The year before we opened our first restaurant, and we're talking 33 years ago here, I went to my first National Restaurant Association show here in Chicago, and it opened my view to all kinds of possibility. I got to learn about pieces of equipment that I couldn't even imagine existed. I got to learn about menu covers and different ways of training. I got to meet people from different culinary schools. I got to taste different kinds of food that were being on display. I walked away from that show thinking I was really taken care of, because coming to that show had opened up so many possibilities for me that I knew I could go back to that show year after year, and I haven't missed a single one, and find the answers to the things that I was most interested in.
Just as they are today, sessions will often focus on what restaurateurs are facing tomorrow. Look how far we've come.
The 1920s. The modern restaurant industry comes into being during a decade of head-turning growth, only to end with the stock market crash and the Great Depression. The 1930s. The Great Depression rages. Dazzling advances revealed at the show lead to its temporary rechristening as the Restaurant World's Fair. The 1940s. World War II brought food and labor shortages, yet demand for meals outside the home tripled from pre-war levels as the war effort mounted. The show was suspended from 1942 to 1945, but smaller and sometimes regionalized wartime emergency conferences provided a forum for operators on such topics as serving healthier food. In the 1950s, catering to the rise of automobiles, McDonald's and other drive-ins come to symbolize the decade.
In the 1960s, restaurant chains sprout and grow at a rapid clip, with concepts as varied as Bob Evans Farm, Benihana, Cork and Cleaver, and Arby's all firing up their grills. The 1970s. The nation suffers from simultaneous shortages of gasoline and beef, which sends food costs soaring. Government initiatives threaten to dramatically increase labor costs, prompting the industry to come into its own as a lobbying force.
The 1980s. The running craze gives rise to the Main Course, the show-affiliated 10K race that would be Chicago's first. The 1990s. The industry gives national morale a boost with its support of the 500,000 plus U.S. troops who were dispatched overseas to push Saddam Hussein's forces out of Kuwait.
In the 2000s, a go-go period for the industry crashes to a halt with the subprime financial crisis, presenting restaurants with their toughest environment since the Great Depression. A new breed of restaurant emerges, combining the speed and prices of quick service with the caliber of food more often found at a full-service level. Fast casual is an instant hit with customers.
In the present decade, technology becomes as essential to restaurants as forks and napkins, while the lure of new at-home entertainment options keeps patrons home, where they order delivery via their smartphones. Restaurateurs revamp their vocabulary with terms such as clean label, transparency, and frictionless service. The show has drawn a parade of celebrity speakers over its first 100 years, including some of the biggest names in sports, entertainment, politics, and business.
Back-of-house technology has the potential to change operations as we know it. And tech will change how restaurants interact with guests too. It will even change how we grow and cook our food.
Consumers are changing too, and the industry will continue to evolve to meet those demands.
And we all know the look and feel of restaurants will continue to evolve too. So here's to the next 100 years.
So here's to the next 100 years.